there's two different formats that we're going to use. One format is called the slope y-intercept, and the other to be the standard form. So these are two different formats that we can write the same equation, but two different ways. So the slope y-intercept form is going to look like this. You have y, so y by itself, equal to a number multiplied by x plus another number. Okay? So you're going to have the y and the x in that position. This is going to be a number, and this is going to be another number. Okay? With the standard form, you're going to have this. You're going to have ax plus by plus c equals to 0. So you're going to have all the terms on one side. Okay? With a, b, and c being numbers, different numbers. Okay? So this is a number right before the y, this is another number by itself, and it's going to equal to 0. Okay? So this is called the slope y-intercept form. This is called the standard form. Now, before we start with these two different formats, let's define some of the terminology. So when I say the y-intercept, okay, the y-intercept is when it's the point where the line crosses the y-axis. Okay? So let's look at this. If I have the x and y, right? Remember, this is your y right here, and this is your x right here. And you have your line, the straight line. Okay? Can you guys point out where the y-intercept is? Where is that straight line passing the y-axis?
It's almost 6.
Right here?
Yeah.
We call this the y-intercept. Okay? So this is where your line is crossing the y-axis. Okay? The x-intercept is the point where the line crosses the x-axis. So in this case, it's going to be right here. When it starts from the x-axis, right? So it doesn't have to do, the line doesn't have a start or end.
No, I mean where it crosses.
Where it crosses, yes. Okay? Now, we talked about this before. We talked about if I want to calculate the y-intercept, what do I do? We talked about this. I set what value to 0? If I'm looking for the y-intercept. Do I set x to 0 or do I set y to 0?
Oh, set y. Why not x?
X, because I'm looking for the y-intercept. Look at this point right here. This point right here is going to be, let's say this is 2. It's going to be 0, 2, right? Because my x value is 0 and I'm going up 2. Do you guys agree with that? Right? So that means my x value is 0 and my y value is 2. So anytime I'm looking for the y-intercept, what's my x going to be? 0. Can you give me, if this is 1 right here, can you give me the point here? What's that point right here? Huh?
2.
It's 1.
Oh, it's 1.
1 what?
0.
1 and 0, right? You're not going anywhere on the y. Okay? So if you want to look for the x-intercept, what do you set for 0? X or y?
Y.
Y. So you're going to set y as 0. So to calculate the y-intercept, set x equal to 0, and you're going to solve for y. And to calculate the x-intercept, set y as 0, and solve for x. next question so we can see what's going on. So find the x and y intercept of a line represented by the equation y equals negative 2 over 3x minus 4. Okay? So they gave me the equation. They want me to find the x and the y intercept. Okay? So to find the x-intercept, what do I do? That's right. So I'm looking for the x-intercept first, just because it just asked for x first. So x-intercept, I set y to 0, which means I replace y with a 0. And this is the harder one, by the way. So if I put 0 for y, and then I leave the rest as is. What letter do I have left? I have x, so I need to solve for x. I need to isolate for x. So this is what we did in the previous unit. How do I isolate for x? What's the first thing I want to get rid of? What's the first thing I want to get rid of?
Negative.
The negative 4. This is where the bedmass, reverse bedmass comes in, right? I want to get rid of that negative 4 first. So I bring it over, what does it become? Positive 4. So I have 4 equals to negative 2 over 3. Right? 4 plus 0 is 4. It's not going to change. Where's the x? X. Okay. Now, then what do I want to get rid of? Multiply by 3, so I get rid of that 3. Okay? So then, this is where we did what we did last unit. So if I multiply by 3, the 3 and the 3 are going to cancel. I want to get rid of it. Right? So that's going to give me 12 equal to negative 2x. What's the last thing I want to get rid of? I want to leave x by 4.
You have to get rid of the 2.
I have to get rid of the negative 2. Right? So divide by negative 2. What's 12 divided by negative 2? Negative 6. So that means x equals so if I'm looking for the x-intercept, can you tell me what the point's going to be? What's the x value?
Negative 6.
Negative 6. And what's the y value?
0.
Yes, because I plugged in 0 for y. Remember? Good. The x-intercept is the harder one because is the one that you have to move things around to isolate for x. The y-intercept is easy in this case. Now, if I want to find the y-intercept, what do I set equal to 0? I set the x equal to 0, right? So I replace x with a 0. So y equal to negative 2 over 3 times 0 minus 4. Did I tell you that's an easy one? Right? What's negative 2 over 3 times 0? 0. Anything times 0 is 0, right? And then subtract 4? Negative 4. So your y-intercept is going to be what? 0 for x, negative 4 for y. Okay, so this is one way I can graph, okay? So if I do this, look at this. I have my first point, which is negative 6, 0. So it's going to be hello.
Just a quick health and safety.
Yep.
Check, is there anything, any concerns or anything like that?
Nothing that I Thank you. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's negative 6, 0. Okay, and then my second point is going to be at 0, negative 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I can graph my line like this. Okay, so all what I had to do is find the 2 points and graph mine. Now, did I expect my line to be going down? Because
Negative.
my slope is negative. negative 2 over 3. Okay? Trust me, the x-intercept is the harder one, right? But you're going to have to use your knowledge from the previous unit to be able to do it. Okay? As long as you remember, if I'm finding the y-intercept, I'm plugging 0 for x. If I'm finding the x-intercept, I'm plugging 0 for y. The opposite letter always. Okay? Let's do this part and then I'll let you guys go. Okay? So the second part, the second equation, the first equation, sorry, the other type of equation that we are going to talk about is the format y equals mx plus b. So that's called the slope, not the slope y-intercept form. There is a reason why we call it slope y-intercept form, because that form can give me the slope and the y-intercept. Okay? So let's look at this. Out of this here, what did I say from before the slope is? Which letter? Which one? N. Let's look at this. Remember when we had this scenario or this question previously? Right? What was the slope? What did I say the slope is the same
3.
as? The slope is the 3, which is the coefficient of the x, right? In this case, it's represented by what letter? By m, because that's the letter that comes with the x. Okay? So m represents the slope of the line. Okay? Now, letter b, right here, represents the y-intercept. Look here. Let's go back to the previous question. Right? What was my y-intercept? Negative 4. Is it the same thing as that number that comes after the x? Right? So it's going to happen every single time. That number that's added to the mx or subtracted or whatever it is, that number is going to be your y-intercept. Okay? So, and that's why it's called slope y-intercept, because I can find the slope and the y-intercept from it. So, quick example here. So the equation is y equals 8x minus 9. Can you tell me what the slope is? 8. Oops. Can you tell me what the y-intercept is? Negative 9. It comes with a sign in front of it, okay? Good. Second question is y equal negative 3 over 4x plus 2. Can you tell me what the slope is?
Negative 3.
Negative 3 over 4. So it's that whole number that is a coefficient of x. And what would be my y-intercept? 2. The advantage of the slope y-intercept form is that it's easy to graph. If it's already in the slope y-intercept form, it's easy to graph. Let's see why, or how can I graph? So, first thing you're going to do to graph, you're going to first plug the y-intercept, which I know, right? So if I look at this, my y-intercept is negative 9, right? So I can locate it right away. I can plot. Then you're going to use your slope. And can you guys tell me what the slope is?
X.
What does the slope? M equals to what? What's the formula for it?
Y.
Y2.
Give me the other formula.
Rise over.
Rise over run. So you're going to use the rise over run to plot the second point, which is the slope. Okay? And then all you need is technically 2 points to plot a line, right? All that I need is actually 2 points. Let's look at an example. So let's look at, which one do you want to look at? Negative 3 over 4x plus 2?
Yeah, just take one.
Okay. Oops. Can I change the background? Okay. So. So, first you're going to look at where your y-intercept is. Okay? So my y-intercept for this equation is what? What's the y-intercept? 2. So 2 is right here. Do you guys agree with that? This is where my y-intercept is? It's at 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Then the slope tells me what? What does this, read that to me in English. Negative 3 over 4.
Negative 3 over 4.
So what does that mean with respect to rise over run?
So you have to divide. Right.
So what's your rise?
3.
Rise is down 3, right? It's down 3. And what's your run? Over 4. Yeah? So I have to go from that point,
Oh, yeah.
I have to go down 3 over 4. Okay? So let's look at that. So if I'm going to go down 3, it's going to be 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go over 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I found my next point. I have 2 points. It's enough for me to bring this and do a straight line between the 2 points. Got it. Okay? So that's why this is easy. I didn't do any math. Literally, I took the equation and I looked at the y-intercept. It's 2. Boom. Slope, it's negative 3 over 4. So I know I have to go down 3 over 4. Found my next point. I'm done. Okay? Now, what if it was like 8x minus 9? What does 8 mean? How can I do slope from 8? So what's your y-intercept for this one?
That's
Negative 9. So you're going to go to the negative 9. Okay? And then what do you have to do from there?
Oh, you have to go up 8.
Up 8 over 1. If it doesn't have a denominator, it's a 1. Okay? So, right now I'm going to stop right here because I think that's a lot of information for a Friday night.